The book of Proverbs, chapter 20, verse 11. Even a child is known by his doings, whether his work be pure and whether it be right. Okay, first and foremost, I like to give infinite honors and prayers to Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushai, Ba'ashim Rakah HaKodash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, and salutation to the icons that's pushing the truth and sincerity. Lord willing, this video be edifying, first and foremost, to the whole elect, and to those that cleave to the body. And I'm about to get out. This is a quick impromptu to count. The spirit just came over me, just to share these quick thoughts, all right, concerning women and children can be careless, but men can't, all right, because the margin for error as men of the Lord, okay, and the high honor responsibility that was laid and placed upon us that we have to bear, the Lord don't even allow us to walk with excuses, okay? Because a lot of time, people compensate, should I say, people input excuses, okay, for accountability, all right? But the men of the Lord compensate might, right? They compensate love, all right? Whatever it may be, all right, that they may be held accountable for their accountability, man. You know, and the reason why I say that, because we always, the Lord required us to gird up our loins as men, all right? And once we got this heavenly knowledge, okay, we then begin to basically understand, we begin to grow as men, all right? We come as children, but as children we grow. So while we're children, we're considered there's a level of innocence, all right, in children. But when I read that, it says even a child is known by his doing, whether his work be pure and whether it be right. Now, technically, how can you then judge a child? Because a child don't have the mental capacity to actually know the work that he's doing and if it's right or not, all right? You see? Okay? So if they're being held, if that's a balance, all right, that the Lord required, then what of a child, then how much more of us when we come as little children, all right? Yeah, of course we have to grow into the understanding of things we have to be responsible of, and then as we learn, all right, we are basically prisoners unto it, because there's nothing else to do it, but there's nothing else to run away from but to do it. We can't run, all right? We held to it. This is 1 Corinthians. I'm going to get the 13 and 11, then I'm going to jump to the 14, and that'd probably be about it, all right? Because again, like I said, it was real quick, okay? It says, when I was a child, I spoke and thought and reasoned as a child. Now, I'll show you the reasoning of children, but even that's examined to whether it be pure. So while we're children growing up in the Lord and learning how to purify ourselves and sanctify ourselves, all right, there's a measuring scale, all right, that we're learning to do that, all right? Yeah, there's gonna be some hiccups, there's gonna be some shortcomings, some obstacles, some you know, falls, right? But that's why it's in place for a man to fall 7 times. Because as children, we have to enter into the kingdom of heaven. That's the only way we're gonna get into the kingdom of heaven. But the Lord also requires us to be men. So is the Bible contradicting itself? No. Nay. All right? It says, I thought as a child. It says, when I was a child, I spake as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. And when do you become man? Right? Say, Yahushua became a man. Technically in the law, you become a man at 12. All right? But really, when we got this truth, we became men of the Lord, man. All right? As children, though. We came as children, all right, but men. You know, in that way, that leave no room for us to have excuses or whatever, man. You know, we would just be able to hold up our end of the bargain, man. You see? This is the final one. This is 1 Corinthians 14 and 20, because I'm going to put up that count. All right? And it says, It says, brethren, be not children in understanding, however be it in malice, howbeit in malice be ye children, but in understanding be men. So it says, dear brothers and sisters, don't be childish in your understanding. So your understanding have to grow. All right. And then once it grow, you're no longer acceptance to the rule of being a man. It says, don't be childish in your understanding of these things. Be innocent as babies when it comes to evil, but be mature in understanding matters of this kind, man. All right, so, and he that handleth a matter wisely shall find good. So as men, we seek out wisdom and use the wisdom to handle matters of the Lord, man, that we can be found acceptable and in favor of the Lord, man, when we come before the throne, man. You see? So that pretty much was the point, you know. Women and children can be careless, but men can't, man. There's a heavenly care that men must carry themselves with, and make sure they are in the spirit of keeping it and doing it without no excuses. So I don't want to write this out. It was edifying. Till next time, I say shalom.